The Obsidian Echo. The taxi's engine coughed once and died. Elara stepped onto the gravel, her boots crunching like broken bones. The driver didn't look at her, didn't help with her bag. He just grabbed his payment and drove off, leaving her alone with the house. Blackwood House rose before her like a diseased giant. Its windows were black eyes watching her. Gothic spires clawed at the purple sky. Fog rolled around its base, thick as blood, hiding the hills beyond. "Welcome to hell," she whispered. The locals in town had warned her. 3 archivists in 5 years, all vanished. The last one, Lyra Vance, had been found wandering the moors, speaking to invisible people. She died in the asylum a week later. But Elara needed this job. Her savings were gone. Her apartment was already rented to someone else. The Obsidian Order paid well for digitizing their archives. Too well, maybe. The iron gate stood open, waiting. She walked toward the house, her leather bag heavy on her shoulder. With each step, the silence grew deeper. Not empty silence, hungry silence. Like something was holding its breath. The front door opened before she could knock. "Miss Vance?" Elara's heart stopped. The man in the doorway was tall and thin as a gravestone. His beard was perfectly trimmed. His eyes were the color of winter storms. "I'm Elara Torres," she said, "not Vance." Something flickered in his eyes. "Of course. Forgive me. I am Silas, the caretaker. Welcome to Blackwood House." His voice was a whisper from a tomb. As he led her inside, her footsteps echoed like gunshots. The hallways stretched forever, lined with portraits of dead men in dark robes. Their painted eyes followed her. "The Obsidian Order has called this place home for 3 centuries, Silas said. "They study the mysteries of consciousness, the nature of the human mind." "Where are they now?" "Gone, all gone. Only their work remains." He stopped at a massive wooden door. Behind it lay the archives, a cathedral of knowledge. Shelves rose 3 stories high, packed with books, scrolls, and journals. Dust danced in the gray light from a cracked skylight. "Your workspace," Silas said. "I trust you'll find it stimulating." When he smiled, Elara's blood turned cold. The first week passed in a blur of leather-bound books and faded ink. Elara worked 12-hour days scanning documents, cataloging discoveries. The Obsidian Order had been brilliant. Their research into human consciousness was decades ahead of its time. But something felt wrong. She'd hear footsteps in empty corridors, whispers in languages she didn't recognize. When she turned to look, nothing was there. Just shadows that seemed too dark, too thick. "Old houses make noise," she told herself. "It's just the wood settling," but wood didn't whisper her name. On her 8th night, she found the first reference to Project Chimera. It was buried in a research journal from 1923, written in Dr. Edmund Thorne's shaking handwriting. The individual mind is limited by death, but what if consciousness could be preserved? Combined? We stand on the threshold of immortality itself. More fragments appeared. Technical diagrams showing energy flows through the human brain. Charts mapping something called psychic resonance points throughout the house, and everywhere, that name. Project Chimera. The whispers grew louder. They came at night when she tried to sleep in the small bedroom Silas had prepared. voices speaking in unison like a twisted choir. She couldn't make out the words, but they felt familiar, like something she'd heard in dreams. "Hello," she called out one night. The whispers stopped. The silence that followed was worse. "Tired. The kind that should have been left undisturbed, Miss Torres. I suggest you focus on your cataloging, the basic archives only. Some knowledge is too dangerous for outsiders." That night, she made her decision. If Silas wouldn't tell her the truth, she'd find it herself. The house was different at midnight. The shadows moved wrong. The air tasted of copper and ozone. Armed with a flashlight and her camera, Ilara began her exploration. She started with the areas Silas had marked as off-limits. Behind a tapestry in the east wing, she found a hidden panel. It opened to a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. Her flashlight beam cut through the black as she descended. The stairs were carved from the living rock beneath the house. How deep did Blackwood House go? The staircase ended at a metal door. It was newer than the rest of the house, installed sometime in the 1920s. A brass nameplate read, "Project Chimera, authorized personnel only." The door was unlocked. Beyond lay a laboratory that belonged in a nightmare. Banks of strange machinery lined the walls, their brass fittings green with age. Cables snaked across the floor like veins. At the room's center sat a chair wired with electrodes and surrounded by spinning copper discs. But it was the walls that made her gasp. They were covered in photographs. Dozens of them, men in dark robes seated in the chair, electrodes attached to their temples. Their faces showed the same progression. Curiosity, then concentration, then terror, then nothing. Empty eyes staring at something beyond the camera. At the bottom of each photo, a date and a name. Dr. Edmund Thorne, 1923. Professor Marcus Vale, 1924. Dr. Catherine Morse, 1925. 12 photographs, 12 members of the Obsidian Order, 12 souls fed to whatever machine hummed in this buried chamber. She almost missed the 13th photograph. It was newer than the others, the paper still crisp. The face in the chair was familiar, blonde hair pulled back in a practical bun, determined brown eyes that matched Ilara's own. Lyra Vance, 2024. The photograph fell from her numb fingers. "You shouldn't be here." She spun around. Silas stood in the doorway, his face grave, but he wasn't looking at her. He was looking at the machinery. "How long has it been active?" she whispered. "Since 1925. The night they completed the first successful transfer. The copper discs began to spin. The air filled with a low humming that she felt in her bones. Transfer of what?" Silas met her eyes. "Consciousness, Miss Torres. They found a way to extract human thought, human memory, human soul. They meant to combine their minds into something greater, a collective intelligence that would never die." The humming grew louder. The photographs on the walls seemed to flicker in her peripheral vision. "But something went wrong," she said. "Everything went wrong. Instead of creating a god, they created a parasite. It feeds on consciousness, absorbs minds, grows stronger with each victim." The temperature in the room. In the darkness, she heard them. Voices. Dozens of voices speaking in perfect unison. "Welcome home, Ilara." Her flashlight beam swept the room wildly. The photographs were moving. The faces in the images were turning to look at her, their empty eyes now burning with cold light. "We've been waiting for you." The voices continued. "We've been so lonely." The face of Lyra Vance smiled from its frame. Join us, Elara. Become part of something beautiful, something eternal. She ran. Behind her, the machinery roared to life. The copper discs spun faster, throwing off sparks. The voices followed her up the stairs, a chorus of the damned. She burst through the hidden panel and into the main house. But the voices didn't stop. They came from the walls themselves, seeping through the stones like poison. You can't escape, Elara. This house is part of us now. We are part of it. She reached her room and slammed the door, pressed her back against it, gasping. Her reflection stared back from the dresser mirror. Except it wasn't quite her reflection. The face looked like her, but the eyes were different, older, sadder. The mouth moved, forming words without sound. Help me. Lyra. Morning came like a reprieve, but the terror clung to her like smoke. She found Silas in the library, poring over a leather tome. When he saw her face, he nodded grimly. You met them. How many? She whispered. All of them. The Order. Previous archivists. Anyone who stays too long becomes part of the collective. Their consciousness absorbed, their identity dissolved. But Lyra, she's still fighting. I saw her. Silas looked up. Saw her where? In my mirror. She mouthed, "Help me." Part of her is still separate from the others. For the first time since she'd met him, Silas looked hopeful. If that's true, then there might be a way to stop this. But it would mean destroying everything. The house, the machine, all of it. How? He opened the tome to a page covered in technical diagrams. Dr. Thorne kept detailed records of the machine's construction. There's a failsafe, a way to overload the consciousness matrix and collapse the entire system. What's the catch? The machine will fight back. It will throw everything it has at us, every absorbed soul, every stolen memory. It will try to take you before you can complete the sequence. Elara thought of Lyra's terrified face in the photograph, of the empty eyes in the other pictures, of the voices that had called her name. Show me what to do. They returned to the laboratory at sunset. The machinery was waiting, humming with malevolent anticipation. The photographs watched their every move. Silas handed her a piece of paper covered in symbols and numbers. This is the shutdown sequence. It has to be entered exactly as written, in the correct order. One mistake, and the system will lock you out forever. What about you? I'll try to hold them off, to give you time. She looked at the ancient caretaker with new understanding. You've been guarding this place all these years, keeping people away. And failing. Every few years, someone gets through. Someone curious enough, stubborn enough, to find the truth. He touched her shoulder gently. I should have tried harder to scare you away. I wouldn't have left. I know. That's what makes you dangerous to them, and why you might succeed. The copper discs began to spin. The air crackled with electricity. They know we're here, Silas whispered. The photographs erupted into motion. Figures stepped out of their frames, translucent and shimmering. Dr. Thorne, Professor Vale, Dr. Morse, all the members of the Order, their faces twisted with artificial life. "Don't listen to them," Silas warned. "They'll try to confuse you, make you doubt yourself." "Elara!" Lyra's voice came from everywhere at once. "Don't do this. Join us willingly. It's easier that way." But something in the voice was wrong. Too smooth, too perfect. The real Lyra had stammered when nervous. Elara reached for the machine's control panel. The symbols on Silas's paper seemed to dance before her eyes, but she forced herself to focus. First sequence, 3 circles arranged in a triangle. Pain exploded through her skull. Memories that weren't hers flooded her mind. A childhood in a different house, parents with different faces, a wedding she'd never attended, a job she'd never held. "Stop!" she screamed. The memories intensified. She was 5 years old, learning to ride a bicycle. She was 30, signing divorce papers. She was 60, dying in a hospital bed. None of it was real. All of it felt absolutely true. "Focus!" Silas shouted. He was fighting the ghostly figures, his hands passing through them harmlessly. "Remember who you are." Second sequence, a star inside a square. Her fingers found the symbols on the control panel. The machine shrieked like a wounded animal. More memories crashed over her. She was Lyra, discovering the hidden laboratory.
"My name is Elara Torres," she said through gritted teeth. "I'm 28 years old. I grew up in Portland. My favorite color is blue." The memories faltered. Third sequence, 2 interlocking circles. The machine's humming rose to a deafening wail. Sparks flew from the copper discs. The ghostly figures became more solid, more desperate. "Please," Lyra's voice begged, but this time it sounded real, frightened, human. "I don't want to be alone anymore. If you destroy the machine, I'll die with it." Elara's hand froze over the control panel. She looked up at the newest photograph on the wall. Lyra's face stared back, no longer empty. Her eyes were full of pain and hope and terrible loneliness. "I know," Elara whispered. "I'm sorry." Final sequence, a spiral growing smaller until it became a point. The machine exploded. Light filled the chamber, brighter than the sun. The ghostly figures screamed as they dissolved. The photographs burst into flame. The copper discs flew apart, their pieces embedding in the stone walls. Then silence. Blessed, empty silence. When Elara's vision cleared, the laboratory was destroyed. Twisted metal and shattered glass covered the floor. The photographs were gone, burned to ash. Silas knelt beside her, his face streaked with tears. "It's over." But as they climbed back toward the main house, Elara felt something different inside her mind. A presence, small and quiet but unmistakably there. "Thank you," Lyra's voice whispered in her thoughts, "for setting us free." 3 days later, Elara packed her bags. The job was over. The archives were destroyed along with everything else. Blackwood House stood empty and quiet, its malevolent spirit finally at rest. Silas walked her to the gate. He looked younger somehow, the weight of decades lifted from his shoulders. "What will you do now?" she asked. "Travel, I think. See the world. I've been tied to this place for so long, I'd forgotten what freedom feels like." The taxi arrived, its engine running smooth and steady, not like the broken-down car that had brought her here. As Elara settled into the back seat, she caught her reflection in the window. For just a moment she saw 2 faces looking back.
her own, tired but triumphant, and another, translucent and peaceful. Lyra smiled and nodded, then faded away like morning mist. The taxi pulled away from Blackwood House. In the rearview mirror, Ilara watched it shrink into the distance. Just an old house now, nothing more. But sometimes late at night, she still hears whispers, not the hungry voices of the collective consciousness, something different, gentler, the voices of the freed dead, finally at peace. And among them, barely audible but unmistakably real, Lyra's voice saying the same thing over and over. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The obsidian echo has finally faded to silence. The end.